So thanks once again for dropping by the channel. If you like the content, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, share the video if you enjoyed it, if you felt it was useful. It really does help me out. So if you could share it, it'd be much appreciated. Now let's get into this. So Joyce knocks out Michael Wallisch in the third round. This was a fairly one-sided fight. Apart from the first minute of the first round, this was pretty much Joyce hitting the human heavy bag. Now this Wallisch guy, he had previously fought Tony Yoka. I think he'd fought some other guys as well, but he was stopped in exactly the same round actually. He was stopped in the third round by Tony Yoka back in September of last year. And since then, he's not really done much. Obviously, he was called in to fight Joyce. Joyce and Daniel Dubois, they have their date in October, but they're both taking interim bouts ahead of that. I think Joyce needed the interim bout more probably as opposed to Daniel Dubois, because Dubois was active last year. Joyce wasn't. Joyce, this is his first fight in a year, because he fought on the Dubois-Gorman card last year, so he's not fought since then. This was his first run out, and the few things I picked up from Joyce, well, one, and we know that Joyce, especially early on in the fight, he's very easy to hit. He's easy to hit most of the time, but early in a fight, even against guys where you know they're not great, like for example when he fought Bermain Stavern last year and Stavern came in way overweight, he was able to land a couple of shots on Joyce early on, and this was a Stavern who was not sharp, who was grossly out of shape. He was able to land shots on Stavern, and in this fight it was no different. Wallisch landed a couple of overhand rights. He was actually having some good success with the overhand right in this fight, because Joyce, he stands upright, very upright. He doesn't move his head much. He's very slow, very just clunky. It's the best way you can describe Joyce. So he walked into a couple of right hands, nothing major. I mean, Joyce, he's shown to have a fairly decent chin, and Joyce, obviously, when he finally got a bit comfy in there, he started throwing his own shots. Another thing about Joyce in this fight, which I think is an issue, and David Hay spoke about this early on, is that Joyce came into this fight career heaviest, 270. Now that is very heavy for him, and he did, by his own admission, say that during quarantine, during lockdown, he didn't really do much. He didn't really hit any bags. He didn't really do anything. So obviously Joyce, he's carrying, as far as I can see, he's carrying at least maybe 10-12 pounds more than he should be, maybe even a stone. David Hay said he'd like him to be about a stone lighter. I think that's in around the right kind of weight for Joyce, because he looked even slower than usual in there. He didn't look as kind of hard as he normally does. Joyce, a very big man, he's been in between the 250s to the 260s in recent fights. But in this fight, 270, like I said, it's very heavy. Too heavy, I think, for Joyce. This is a man who's already slow. He's not got the quickest hand. He's not got the quickest feet in the world. So, and that's even when he's, a stone lighter. So if you pack on extra weight, it's going to be nothing but a detriment, I think, to him. And like I said, he was out of the ring a year. There was a little bit of ring rust you could see early on. But at the end of the day, Joyce doing what Joyce does. He throws a lot of punches, very heavy-handed. One thing I've always said about Joyce is that when I seen him when he was being trained by Abel Sanchez, his punches seem to have more authority to them than they do when he's trained by other trainers. Like for example, when he was trained with Adam Boot, his punches, they weren't light, but they didn't seem to have quite the same authority on them as when he trained with Abel Sanchez. And that's something that Abel Sanchez has done with a lot of fighters. He's taken guys like Murat Kasayev, who were not noted as big punchers, and turned them into big punchers. So, but as I said, Joyce, still a very heavy-handed fighter. He threw a hell of a lot of punches. He had Wallisch down in the second round. It started from a body shot, ended with a hook to the head. It wasn't a heavy knockdown, but the right was on the wall. The right was on the wall at that stage. Whenever he was throwing shots and hitting Wallisch, he was hurting him. I think that the heavy-handedness of Joyce pretty much overwhelmed him, as well as the work rate, because Joyce can work quite well. He can let his hands go. And in the third round, much the same, was put down again, and the finishing combo was actually quite a good little combo. It was right hand to the head followed by a left hook to the body. Did look quite a sore punch, and referee Ian John Lewis waved it off. Rightly so. I mean, Wallisch was never going to do much. He was never going to do much. He really was quite poor. Daniel Dubois, his opponent, on paper looked slightly better because he had a decent amateur background, but again, we won't know anything until we see what they're like in the ring. As I said, the things he was doing in there, like getting hit with the right hands, he's already slow, but being even slower. Things like that he's going to need to address before this Daniel Dubois fight, because if you're getting hit by overhand rights by a guy like Michael Wallisch, that's fair enough, that's one thing. But Daniel Dubois, very, very solid jab, great right hand, very heavy-handed in that right hand. You don't want to be getting him hit. You don't want to be letting him hit you. especially not at will, especially early on when he's sharp and fresh. I don't care how good your chin is. If Daniel Dubois, someone like that, hits you smack bang on the chin with a big right hand, you're going to have problems. So, as I said, Joyce looked a little bit rusty in there, but you give him he's been out of the ring for a year, boxing with the way it's been, probably training hasn't been, completely where it should be, which I think is one of the things about all these boxing behind closed doors. I don't think they're getting the adequate training. They're getting decent training, but I don't think they're getting quite the same level as they may have been pre-lockdown. But those are my thoughts on this. Like I said, it was just a run out for Joe Joyce. It was an easy fight. A few little things there I picked up on, like just he's easy to hit, but addressing the right hand, and definitely needs to get a bit of weight off. The 270 is way too heavy for Joe Joyce. So those are my thoughts on this fight. Let me know yours down below. Who do you have in the fight between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce? Do you think Daniel Dubois may actually come unstuck against this Georgian guy he's going to fight next? I forget the guy's name. I think something Pfeiffer or something like that. So yeah, let me know how you think that's going to go, and how do you think Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois is going to go. Let me know your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, of course, if you are new. And as always, people, I will talk to you.